I see myself going out and outthinking Devin Haney and what my game plan is to go out there and beat me. At the end of the day, can't nobody stop me at all. I feel like I can literally do any and everything possible, and don't nobody got anything for me.
Before the first bell was ever struck, Brian Norman Jr. and Devin Haney had been giving warnings. Both men were lethal looking in their latest training videos, sharp, precise, and ferocious.
But, you know, now he's fighting a real fighter, you know, a guy who's been at the top for a long time, and I will show him that I'm just levels above him.
Brian made it clear that betting lines or outside opinions held no weight in his preparation. His focus, he said, was entirely on what would happen inside the ring, not on what anyone expected. Norman sounded confident, almost calm, as he suggested that Devin Haney might be underestimating him, but warned that doing so would be a costly mistake.
I don't really care about the betting odds or anything like that. And regardless, he's sleeping on me, I'm pretty sure he's not going out like that. Pretty sure he was raised better than that. But I'm pretty sure he know what he in for as well. I'm pretty sure he's trying to do everything possible, but no matter what, it's not enough. I salute to him for trying to define the odds and things of that nature. But let's say he can take a punch, but that's from a regular guy. I have Hall of Fame power. I have legendary power. I got something that Ernest Shavers used to have. So you can probably take a punch from the other guys, but not this one.
Greg Hackett gave his own view as an ardent boxing fan and how he broke down the movements of fighters mentally to see how a fight could go. He opined that his perception of positioning, timing, and rhythm enabled him to visualize how the styles of two men fighters would be when they were in the ring.
I can see movement, and I can compare the movements. I can contrast the movements. Like, I can, in my mind, I can put them together, and I can see how they lock, especially in a fight.
Greg Hackett made a lengthy projection concerning his expectation of the course of the fight between Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr. Based on this analysis, Hackett thought that Norman could face his greatest challenge with his excitement. He said that the first time fighters enter the spotlight on a large scale, they usually go overboard in the first step and burn out prematurely.
Norman gonna be ready, but it's gonna be that thing, like I said, he might overtrain for the fight. Meaning he might be too excited. He blows low early. Paul. Devin Haney been on this level where I've been in there with a puncher. I've been in there with somebody fast. I've been in there with somebody tall and all of that. I've been here before. I've been here before. I mean, it's not gonna be that much of a shock to him. It's gonna be a big fight, but it's not a shock to him. It's going to be a shock to Brian Norman because Brian Norman, his whole thing is proving that I'm on this level.
Their speeches were restrained and deadly. Norman had made it plain, though, that he had come to get the name and reputation of Haney, and Haney, who had never been one to retreat, had reminded the world that talk was cheap and only prowess would determine who was walking away the winner. Greg Hackett went on with his meltdown by attributing how he felt that the tide of the fight would turn once the opening rounds were over. He expected that as the fight went on, Brian Norman Jr. would begin well but deliver hard blows and attacks, but his hits would weaken as the fight went on. He added, Norman is gonna be fighting, but the punch is not gonna have the same steam because they don't have the same steam. Devin is gonna feel that and gain confidence off of that, and he's gonna start loading up that right hand. What began as respect for each other and their relationship soon evolved into open competition. Norman felt disregarded, and he thought that men such as Haney were given opportunities that he had struggled to get through blood and sweat. Brian Norman Jr. sent Devin Haney a chilly, assured message before the fight, making it clear he wasn't there merely to compete, but to dominate. He saw this fight as more than just a test. It was his chance to establish himself as one of boxing's elite, as evidenced by his focused and restrained aggression.
Most people may believe when I say outthinking, that means slow the pace down and try to outbox them and things of that nature. But to me, outthinking is whatever the job may need, I'm doing that. So by any means necessary, I will outthink, outwork, and just straight dog. You know what I'm saying? Hit out.
Later, Devin Haney expressed confidence and respect by going into further detail about Brian Norman Jr. He clarified that although Norman might be underestimating him at the moment, that would alter after the bell rang.
You know, if they sleeping on me, it is what it is. I'm gonna go in there, like I said, I'm gonna do whatever I'm supposed to do to win, and that's what I will do. You know, it is what it is.
According to Haney, Norman would be taken aback by his performance on fight night, and he thought his opponent would eventually recognize his talent and accomplishment following the bout.
I think that come fight night, he will be very surprised. But I think Brian Norman is a stand-up guy. I think he'll give me my just due once I'm victorious, and that's all I'll be looking for.
Norman charged Haney with fighting safely, being too defensive, whilst Haney charged him with recklessness and bad taste. These barbs made what would otherwise have been a normal match into a simmering fire, and the fans were already desiring its eruption within the ring. Meanwhile, Eddie Hearn listed what he thought were the two possible outcomes. He explained that Haney's technical skill could lead him to a dominant win, but at the same time, his caution about getting hit might become a problem against an aggressive puncher like Norman. Hearn proposed that Haney might be harmed by an overly cautious defense, particularly when up against someone with quick reflexes and strong arms.
I think Devin's either going to win really easily or he's going to get knocked out. You know, the thing is Devin and Bill particularly are concerned about getting hit, right? Which is a really bad situation when you're fighting, especially when you're fighting someone who's quite a sharp puncher.
Eddie Hearn went on to discuss Devin Haney's fighting style in greater detail. He noted that Bill Haney, Haney's trainer and father, had a natural desire to shield his son from needless harm, which could have an impact on their overall plan.
Because he's Bill's son, and Bill don't want him to get hit. And they're concerned about his punch resistance. That's the truth. And I don't think, if you're concerned about your punch resistance, I think it's a dangerous game. So Devin will get on his bike against Brian Norman and he will try and outbox him. I don't think he'll run like he did against Ramirez, because I think that he needed that fight. He was rough against Ryan Garcia. Do you know what I mean? He needed to overcome the demon.
With the anticipation that came with it, it was clear that there was something special about this fight. It was not about rankings or belts, but about pride and validation, and the insatiable need to demonstrate who could have been counted among the elite in boxing. Eddie Hearn gave a clear prediction about how he thought the fight would end as he wrapped up his remarks. He stressed that Devin Haney's experience and technical skill would probably help him succeed, even though he acknowledged Brian Norman Jr.'s talent and potential. Instead of risky exchanges, Hearn implied that Haney was capable of controlling the fight's distance and pace, using his ring IQ to outscore Norman.
You know, but how good's Brian Norman? I mean, because Devin's good.
I think Devin beats him.
Yeah, probably wins on points. Probably.
The fire of the new generation was symbolized by Brian Norman Jr., a young but hungry man. He was the type of fighter who prospered by anarchy, who tried to disrupt the rhythm and put his opponents in uncomfortable situations. The more sophisticated technician, Haney, was a personification of control, timing, and mastery. He was the chess master in a game that is often regarded as a checkmate game. An up-and-coming boxing talent and keen observer of the sport, Khalil Coe recently offered his thoughts on the eagerly awaited bout between Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr. Coe confidently stated that he believed Haney was the better fighter in almost every technical area. He clarified that Norman's aggressive style might not be sufficient to challenge a boxer of Haney's caliber, and that Haney's accuracy, discipline, and tactical control would probably be too much for Norman.
Brian Norman's coming off a crazy knockout. You know what I mean? They said something about the guy losing his memory. I think.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Packed him up.
That's crazy. But I don't see that happening in the Devin Haney. I don't think anybody's gonna be able to catch Devin Haney next. I don't think nobody's gonna be able to. That hook that Ryan hit him with, that's not happening again. You seen his last fight? He was in tremendous shape. The whole fight, all 12, boxing, moving when he wanted to. And Brian Norman he's in my opinion, he's one-dimensional. You know what I mean? I don't see him being able to let Devin off and doing anything with him. I see him get outboxed. Decision.
Continuing his breakdown, Coe analyzed that Norman's main vulnerability rested in his limited footwork and inconsistent ring generalship. He noted that these flaws would make it difficult for Norman to trap Haney or close the distance effectively. When asked if Haney needed to prove his strength early, Coe replied that power alone wouldn't define this fight. Strategy, composure, and intelligence would.
Like I said, if he was more, his footwork is not up to par enough to catch Devin. You know what I mean? Devin's a hell of a boxer. You know, before the Ryan knockout. So now he's just more conscious of what can happen. So he's not gonna be able to do anything with that.
What attracted the hype even more was the real doubt about what would happen. Haney's superiority in lightweight and super lightweight had demonstrated his skill in countering aggressiveness using his jab, footwork, and IQ in the ring, but the crude violence of Norman was such that Haney dared hardly encounter. Abdullah Manson highlighted the abilities and intelligence of both fighters in his fair assessment of Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr.'s impending fight. He admitted that Haney is a very talented boxer who can dominate the ring, but he also made the point that Norman is capable of handling the situation and has comparable boxing abilities.
That's a tough one for sure. I mean, but you know, Devin Haney, he can fight, he can box. But you see Brian Norman, he can also fight, he can box. You know, I feel like Haney's a smart fighter, so he gonna do whatever it takes to win. So Brian Norman, he gotta come and get it. He gotta come and get it for sure. So that's gonna be an interesting one. That's something I'm definitely gonna be tuned into after my fight.
Abdullah Manson went into more detail about what Brian Norman Jr. would need to do to successfully compete against Devin Haney. He emphasized that Norman would need to be completely focused during the battle, taking advantage of every chance and not losing focus. Norman is a strong and capable fighter, but Manson emphasized that he cannot enter the ring complacently or expect to coast like a champion without earning every exchange.
He's gonna have to take advantage of every moment he can inside the ring. You know, he can't slip back. He can't take no setbacks like he's like a champion, like the world champion. I mean, although he is the world champion, he can't take no setbacks like he is. He can't relax and chill in there. You know, Devin Haney, he's gonna do what it takes to win, and Brian Norman, he got to be able to do the same exact thing.
The strategy of Norman was premised on constant pressure and timing the spurts of attacks in order to surprise even the most technical fighters. He had demonstrated this previously. Fighters attempting to outbox him would be found sometimes caught between the ropes, where they were receiving combinations that they never imagined were coming at them. The weapon of that unpredictability was his. Robert Garcia provided a perceptive analysis of the impending bout between Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr., emphasizing the fascinating stylistic collision, noting the young fighter's remarkable knockout record and his capacity to subjugate opponents with strength and aggression. He acknowledged the threat Norman poses in the ring.
For him, a lot that he has to prove the world, and I think we're gonna get the best out of Haney. I think we're gonna get the best Haney out there. Norman is a dangerous opponent, and I think that's gonna bring the best out of Haney. I can't wait for that fight. Actually, you know, we've seen Norman take care of business pretty not easy because they're fights, but you know, convincingly knocking guys out, hurting people. He beat my guy in a way I never expected it to be.
Garcia also underlined that Devin Haney's fight is a turning point in his career. Haney, who has already established himself as the best in his division, must now determine if his technical skill, background, and poise can hold up against Norman's unadulterated physicality and intensity. Garcia was genuinely excited about the fight and wanted to see if Haney's skill set could counter Norman's force while following a well-thought-out plan.
So he's doing his job, but against Haney, the fight's gonna be a great fight. Haney, I give credit to Haney for taking this fight at this moment, and you know, I just can't wait, man. It's November is gonna, you know, can't wait because it's gonna be a great month for a great fight of boxing.
To Haney, this struggle was another way of cementing his legacy. He had spent years of his life on a mission to demonstrate that SmackDowns would not be any less exciting than being a smart guy against the accusation of being a boring person by the media. Buddy McGirt offered his opinions on the Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. bout, portraying it as a step in the right direction for boxing. He underlined the importance of fighters pushing themselves against elite opponents and the worth of competition. Reflecting on his old school viewpoint, McGirt observed that contemporary fighters too frequently shun risk in order to preserve their records rather than pursue the most difficult fights.
He has to put everything together that night. Everything has to be on point that night. But he's got to start doing it in training camp. Everything. He's got to put everything together. Not a little here, a little there. No. He's got to be running on all cylinders. You know what I mean? He's got to be running on all cylinders.
Do you like that fight?
Yeah, I think it's a fight. A good fight for boxing.
Buddy McGirt went into further detail about Devin Haney's opponent, Brian Norman Jr., emphasizing the danger of Norman's one-stop knockout power. He clarified that Norman can end a fight with a single, well-timed punch, rather than relying on flurries or lengthy combinations. McGirt emphasized that Haney would have to be performing at his best in every facet of boxing if he wanted to win.
Who has one-punch knockout power. He doesn't... Norman doesn't need a combination to get you out of there. He just needs one shot.
Right.
So so Haney has to be running on all cylinders. Everything's got to be on point. Offense, defense, offense, defense. Everything's got to be on point. The foot movement, everything, the head movement, everything's got to be working that night.
Brian Norman Jr. has been showing his full intensity in training ahead of his showdown with Devin Haney, and his recent mitt work revealed just how locked in he is. Observers noted that Norman's focus was razor sharp, his punches crisp and explosive, and his timing precise. Every combination looked calculated to simulate the challenges he expects from Haney, emphasizing power, speed, and accuracy. As the date of the fight neared, analysts started taking the matchup and analyzing it from all angles. Norman was a strong, aggressive, and young man, which provided him with a clear advantage in power and unpredictability. Showbiz the Adult emphasized how important it would be for Haney to follow his gut and make use of his innate reflexes. He implied that Haney had all the means to manage the battle if he maintained his composure and fought strategically. Shows claims that Haney's speed, technique, and reach could enable him to outmaneuver Norman, execute successful counters, and sustain his superiority over the course of the rounds.
If Devin fights him as a fighter and rely on his instincts and his reflexes and not think about his chin, Haney can stop him. Haney can stop him. Haney can outpunch him. Haney can outpunch him. That jab, his size and everything, he could knock Norman back. If he pop, 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 and believed in him, just let himself go.
Showbiz the Adult pointed out a technical distinction between Brian Norman Jr. and Devin Haney, their punching techniques. He clarified that Norman uses his knuckles to deliver his blows, giving each punch its own unadulterated force and impact. Haney, on the other hand, focuses more on accuracy, speed, and defensive alignment when punching while wearing gloves.
Thing about Brian Norman, and I'm going to show you this again, that's different, is Brian Norman punches with his knuckles. Haney punches with his gloves. But let me show y'all the difference though in punching mechanics. Devin Haney punches with his glove. I know this because I do the same thing. I punch with my glove. And I've been trying to focus on punching with my knuckles. Brian Norman punches with his knuckles.
The experience, speed, and tactical accuracy will enable Haney to have control and the adaptability needed in the situation of pressure. The question narrowed down to this: would Norman be able to drive through the defense of Haney before Haney could drive through his rhythm? Showbiz the Adult noted that Norman's mindset is built around perseverance. No matter how many times he might be knocked down, he is likely to rise again, believing that as long as he remains standing, he still has a chance to turn the fight around. He added, "That's why Brian Norman is going to keep getting up. If Devin knocks him down, he's going to get up because he feels that as long as he's standing, he has a chance. For Brian to beat Devin, he has to hit him real hard, and that's it." Regis Prograis gave an honest assessment of the impending fight between Devin Haney and Brian Norman Jr., publicly declaring that if he had to wager, it would be on Haney. He emphasized Haney's unquestionable effectiveness at the highest level, even though he acknowledged that his style isn't always flamboyant and can occasionally come across as methodical.
If I had to put money, I would bet money on Devin. I mean, I fought him and I know how good he is, and it's like he's a good boxer. We cannot take that away from him that he is a good boxer. You know, he knows how to not to get hit. You know, no matter if he makes it boring. Now, we're not saying that, but you know, same thing with Ramirez. He just, you know, he moved around, he ran around. You could say run around. He ran around the ring for 12 rounds. Same thing with me. He had good feet, you know, and he just know how to move out the way. So I think that's what he's gonna do. So
Haney's footwork, defensive prowess, and ability to avoid danger were all commended by Prograis, who thinks Norman will be irritated from the first bell. He also emphasized Haney's long list of accomplishments, pointing out that both his experience and the caliber of opponents he has faced far outweigh Norman's.
I mean, and then you gotta think, bro, resumes matter. Like, whose resume is better, Brian Norman's or Devin Haney's? I mean, I think like a lot of people hate Devin Haney so much because of, you know, I think maybe outside stuff and they don't really know him. But like, bro, you gotta, at the end of the day, like, I don't have to like you, but I gotta respect it. And like, you gotta look at his resume, bro. Devin got a resume. Brian Norman don't have a resume like Devin.
The anticipation for Devin Haney versus Brian Norman Jr. is at an all-time high. Norman counters with raw power, unrelenting aggression, and unwavering resilience, while Haney enters with accuracy, experience, and tactical mastery. From punching mechanics to mental toughness, experts and trainers have dissected every aspect, demonstrating how evenly matched yet drastically different these fighters are. Every round could change the momentum, so fans can anticipate a battle where strength and strategy collide. For in-depth fight analysis and updates, hit like and subscribe. Don't miss a second of the action, and let us know in the comments who you believe will win. Who will take the night? The ring is ready.